So now we're gonna do a case study. Remember the racquetball simulation from previous chapters? Now we're going to redesign this in an object-oriented fashion. So let's get started. So we want to simulate multiple games of racquetball where the ability of the two opponents is represented by the probability that they win a point when they are serving. The inputs are probability for player A and for player B, the number of games to simulate, and the output is a nicely formatted summary of the results. So our first task is to find a set of objects that could be useful in solving this problem. So use an object, we can use an object to represent a single game of racquetball. This game will have to keep track of some information, namely the skill levels of two players. Let's call this class RBall game. The constructor requires parameters for probabilities of two players. We'll need at least 4 counts to print the result of our simulation: wins for A, wins for B, shoutouts for A, and shootouts for B. Thus, 4 related pieces of information could be grouped into a single object, which could be an instance of the class SimStats. A SimStats object will keep track of all the information about a series of games. Okay. So secondly, we need to play the game. We can give the class a play method that simulates the game until it's over. To play several games, we just need to put a loop around this code. And next, let's see how we can design SimStats. What operations would be useful for these statistics? The constructor should initialize the counts to 0. We need a way to update these counts while the games are simulated. How can we do this? The easiest approach would be to send the entire game object to the method and then let it extract the appropriate information. Once the games are done, we need a method to print out the results, which we can call print report. So here's what our main program should look like. And remember the top-down design. So we'll call a function called print intro. We'll also call a function called get inputs, which will return prob A, prob B, and N, which stands for number of games. And then we can play the game, which we need to create a stats object from SimStats. Then we can create a loop for n times. In each pass, we can create a new game. We can create one game, RBall game, which takes in prob A and prob B. And then we can play the game. And then we can update the stats for each game. And then when we're done, we can print the results by calling the print report of the stats object. Right? So the helper functions that print an introduction and get inputs should be easy. We'll remember this from previous example. Now what we need to do is we need to design the objects and their attributes and methods. So where do we start? First, we need to complete the helper functions, which are the easy parts, and then we need to implement the SimStats, and then we need to implement the RBall game class. Alright, so let's get started.